Welcome back to Unsolicited Feedback, the podcast where we cut through the noise, skip the corporate jargon, and get real about what actually drives results. Because, let's be honest, hope is not a business strategy. I'm your host, Chuck Knabusch, the operations guy. And after 40 plus years across the military, corporate America, and now entrepreneurship, I've seen what works, what breaks, and why leadership, planning, and execution are the great separators between average and exceptional results. As you're catching the replay, send your thoughts or challenges directly to me at chuck@1310.com, chuck@1310.com. Your time matters, so let's jump straight into today's topic. Why your cycle time problem is not an operations problem. Let me start with a situation that will sound painfully familiar to a lot of you. I was once asked to lead a team with a pretty straightforward goal, at least on paper. Review the order cycle time and see if we can reduce it. That was the headline. The footnote, though, was this: leather products required an extra week compared to cloth. Same customers, same promises, different materials, different realities. And right there, before we even touched a process map, was the real problem. Because cycle time isn't just about speed, it's about alignment. What followed was one of the most cross-functional efforts I've ever been a part of. Sales, material, scheduling, production, logistics, IT, and a few more people who showed up once they realized the process already owned them, even if they didn't think they owned the process. And here's the key insight I want to plant early. When cycle time becomes painful, it's rarely because people aren't working hard enough. It's because the system was never designed to flow. Today, I want to walk you through why most cycle time initiatives fail, the counterintuitive truths leaders avoid, and the one thing that actually moves the needle. Not with theory, but with real work, real constraints, and real consequences. So the biggest problem is that leaders treat cycle time like a departmental issue instead of a system design failure. Let's be blunt. The biggest problem is not slow leather. It's not forecasting. It's not even variability or technology. The biggest problem is this: leaders try to optimize pieces of a system they've never fully seen. Cycle time lives across functions, but accountability usually lives in silos. Sales promises, operations absorbs, scheduling juggles, materials reacts, IT supports what already exists, and finance, they measure what already happened. And everyone believes they're doing their part. But here's the hard truth. According to multiple operation studies, less than 30% of total lead time in most organizations is value-adding work. The rest is waiting, batching, rework, approvals, and information lag. That's not an execution problem. That's a design problem. In our case, leather had a longer lead time. That was true. But the deeper truth was more uncomfortable. We had designed a system where learning only began after the customer ordered. Everything upstream was treated as risk instead of information. That assumption, unquestioned for years, was costing us time, flexibility, and trust. An additional challenge, maybe even more relevant than most leaders would like to realize: organizations confuse complexity with inevitability. They assume this is just how it works. That's the nature of our business. And of course, the famous, we're different. Difference doesn't mean exempt from physics. The biggest symptom. When this problem exists, the symptoms are painfully consistent. Leaders experience chronic firefighting, expedited orders becoming, normal, heroics being praised instead of questioned. And customers asking, which date should I believe? In our case, the symptom wasn't just longer lead times. It was misaligned expectations. Cloth could move fast, leather couldn't. So the system created two clocks. And whenever those clocks conflicted, people stepped in to fix it. Emails, overrides, phone calls, manual adjustments. If you recognize this, here's a diagnostic question for you. If your best people went on vacation for 2 weeks, would your cycle time collapse? If the answer is yes, you don't have a process. You have institutional heroics. There's data to back this up. Studies from manufacturing and service environments consistently show that expediting increases total system lead time, not reduces it, because it breaks prioritization logic and creates downstream congestion. Speed gained locally is time lost globally. So, what do most people try to do to fix it? When leaders finally acknowledge the pain, the solutions are usually predictable. They try to push suppliers harder, add safety stock everywhere, invest in faster machines, demand better forecasts, implement a new system, hold more meetings, add some more KPIs, yell louder, sometimes politely, sometimes not so. In our project, we didn't start with solutions. Instead, we created a high-level process flows. Then we value stream mapped them. And every time the map raised a question, we went deeper. We documented process steps, true value add versus noise, constraints, real ones, not excuses, existing requirements, especially those self-inflicted ones, and how data moved or didn't. Then we did the step most organizations skip. We walked the process. Not a tour, not a presentation. We stood there where the work happened and asked, what actually occurs here? That's when the stories changed. Because whiteboards don't lie, but they also don't tell the whole truth. Most leaders try to fix cycle time before they fully expose the reality. That's like prescribing medication before diagnosing the disease. So, why do those solutions rarely work? Here's why those usual fixes fail. They attack symptoms, not assumptions. In our case, the core assumption was we can't do anything until the customer orders. Once we challenged that, the system opened up. We realized some decisions could be made earlier. Some inventory could be intelligently pre-positioned. Some variability could be absorbed upstream instead of downstream. Some constraints were policy-based, not physical. And this required assumptions, trade-offs, some forecasting discipline, and leadership alignment. And yes, this made some people uncomfortable because it shifted responsibility from reacting to designing. Here's the catch most leaders don't want to admit. You can't redesign a system without exposing the decisions that created it. That's political. That's emotional. That's why it's avoided. And here's another hard truth. Technology didn't limit us at first. Thinking did. Ironically, when the thinking finally matured, we hit a real constraint. Our systems couldn't support everything we designed. So we implemented what we could. And even partial execution paid off. Customers felt it. The business saw it. Trust improved. Later, when the organization implemented a full ERP system, something critical was different. The system supported a designed reality, not a guessed one. So what's the one thing that actually moves the needle? Well, if you take nothing else from this video, take this. Stop trying to go faster. Start designing flow. The one thing leaders can do is this: expose and design the end-to-end system before optimizing any part of it. That means cross-functional ownership, visualizing the whole, walking the work, challenging assumptions, and accepting trade-offs consciously, designing constraints instead of reacting to them. This isn't about lean tools. It's not about ERP. It's not about dashboards. It's about leadership, because cycle time is a lagging indicator of system design. If your cycle time is unstable, your planning is misaligned, your execution is compensating, and your leaders are paying the tax. So hope didn't disappear in this story. It just stopped doing the work. If your organization is struggling with cycle time, ask yourself, where are we optimizing locally at the expense of flow? What assumptions have we never questioned? Who owns the system, not just the function? And are we relying on heroics to mask design flaws? Because faster isn't better. Aligned is. And execution doesn't fail because people don't care. It fails because the system was never designed to win. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Unsolicited Feedback. Thanks for joining me, but don't just nod along. Apply something from today's conversation, because results don't show up just from listening. They show up because you did something. Even one small action this week will move the needle farther than a month of good intentions. Hey, if you want to go deeper, scan the QR code or schedule a 30-minute strategy chat. I'd love to hear how you're using planning, leadership, and execution to make sure hope never becomes your business strategy. Drop a comment and like the episode. I'm Chuck Knabusch. Until next time, stay focused, stay disciplined, and don't you dare rely on hope.